Welcome to Saleh Family Speaks.
Hey, I'm Sana.
And I'm Mohammed William.
And we are
The Saleh family.
We are social media influencers, content creators, and we own multiple online businesses. We seem to have a lot to say when it comes to just about anything. We are a mixed culture Muslim couple from Canada, and we're always asked about how our lives intertwine with the world around us.
This podcast is all about learning to live, love, and laugh in a way that may have you rolling on the floor or throwing your phone at the wall. No topic is off the table. Religion, culture, love life, and everything in between. So get ready and grab a big old cup of chai. Welcome back, everyone. Here we are for another planned episode, just like we said we would do, of Saleh Family Speaks. In today's episode, we are going to be speaking about something that may seem to be controversial to some, may seem to be ridiculous to others, and may not make any sense to even other people. And that is...
Yep. It's about evil eye, aka Nazr.
Especially within the Indo-Pak community, because it is such a big
very
thing.
Popular in the Desi community. So what we're going to discuss today is probably going to shake your views, because I didn't know any different growing up, and you might not know any different. So all of this might be new to you, and that's okay.
Absolutely. But one thing we should understand is that there is no one cookie cutter view opinion on most anything. What is definite in the Quran, there's no disagreement amongst the scholars. Things that are ambiguous, and this is what Allah says, that He's made things clear, other things He hasn't made clear. So one of those things that the scholars have differed upon is that of jinn possession, black magic, evil eye, and the physical effects of these things. So Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, one of the greatest scholars that has ever walked the face of the earth, from the Saleh, the one of the earliest generations of Islamic scholars. And we know that today you have probably at least half of the Muslim Ummah follow the Hanafi school of jurisprudence. So
AKA a lot of Desi people.
Exactly. So it is his view that there is no reality to jinn possession. This is not the Saleh family's fatwa. This is the view of the great Imam Abu Hanifa, that there is no such thing as jinn possession, and he brings his evidences from the Quran to substantiate that. In the same regard, black magic. So we say, black magic is mentioned in the Quran here and here and here. But it's quite easy to understand that we as Muslims, when it comes to the crucifixion of Christ, right? Christians say, but it's proven that all these people saw that. And in the same sense that what took place, Allah made the people see that. So for example, with the story of Moses and the snake, right? This is their understanding, the ulama, that the people were made to believe these things happened, but in reality, there was no physical magic taking place.
So let's start off with defining what evil eye is, because some of you might know what that means, and some of you might not know what that means.
It's most closely associated with necklaces in Turkey.
So I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of people wear jewelry or amulets or necklaces and different things that have just literally an eyeball, one little eyeball on it.
And if you've been to Turkey, Istanbul, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's
everywhere.
Bizarre. It's so bizarre. So anyway, this is Google's definition of what evil eye is. It says it's a gaze or a stare superstitiously believed to cause material harm. AKA, here's an example. So a lot of people nowadays will say, don't post the good things in your life on social media because evil eye, people will give you evil eye, and then those things will disappear. So they'll say
they'll destroy your life.
Yeah, so they'll say don't post your happy marriage online, pictures of you and your husband, or videos or whatever, because people will give you evil eye and you'll end up in divorce. And they actually believe this to be true. Another thing they'll say is don't post your kids online, which I agree to some extent. You shouldn't be exploiting your kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it depends on how you're posting. But because they'll get sick, because someone will give them evil eye and then they'll catch a flu and they'll get really sick, or they'll get a fever. Now the crazy thing is this might sound crazy, but there's a lot of people that believe in that. A lot of people that believe in that, and they'll actually blur out the faces of their kids, or And that's fine. If you're doing that for privacy reasons, I totally get that. Totally behind you for that. But when it comes to you believing that posting a picture of your kid is somehow going to give them a viral infection that inhabits their body and causes their immune system. You know what I mean? Like, it's just bizarre to me. It's like how physically, like if you think of physically how a virus gets into your body, it doesn't just magically float from like,
well, kind of does magically
from like
float.
some random
But it
country
doesn't get
giving you
shot
evil
from somebody's
eye.
eyeballs through the internet, into your modem, into your
Oh my gosh.
computer, and into your home.
The viral droplets are not going to come from like some laser vision that someone has in a different country because they're jealous of you. It's just bizarre. I just think it's bizarre.
It's one of those things that has a lot to do with culture.
Yes.
It has a lot to do with pre-Islam traditions. It has a lot to do with the understanding of people in, you know, the village type,
Yeah.
you know, kind of
Yes.
mentality or understanding. One thing we should be very clear of is that, you know, Imam al-Jawzi rahimahullah, in regards to accepting single chain narration hadith, there's 3 principles, but one of those principles is that it cannot contradict reason, and if it does, we don't accept it. So this is one of those things that not only contradicts reason, meaning
Logic.
laws of physics, laws of science, laws of all of these things,
Yeah.
biology, it contradicts all of that, okay? But it also contradicts the Quran, because you're putting you're
Giving
scared
power.
of showing something that somewhere in the world somebody's going to have this evil intention for you, when Allah says in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 155 that we will certainly test you with a touch of fear and famine and loss of property, life and crops. Give good news to those who patiently endure. Now this is what Allah
Yeah.
is saying, is that you're taking
You're going to be
a
tested no
test
matter
from
what.
Allah. You're saying that it's not from Allah, it's from the nazr of that person.
Yeah.
Right? Or the part that gets me is like they say, okay, but Allah chose to test you through the nazr of that person. Okay? So that person, these people are able to destroy your life. They're able to give cancer, to divorce people,
Yeah.
to
To make you go
make your kids
homeless,
sick,
to take your money
lose
away,
your money, all
to
of
lose
these
your
things.
job, to do all these things.
So the flip side is that how are you saying that Allah has given the power to destroy people? He's given just everyone that power. Just by looking at someone, you can destroy them.
through their magical laser vision.
But the rahmah of Allah has not given you the ability to look at a homeless person and suddenly they win the lottery. Or suddenly, you know, your parents who are dying in the hospital,
That they're
you're not
magically
looking
cured.
at them with enough love, I guess is what it
Yeah,
is, right? Because
yeah.
they die anyway.
Yeah, so why do people think that humans all of a sudden have this like innate like ability to cause so much harm, and yet they can't look at someone and cause so much good? Like why are people so backwards? Why is it so socially accepted to think that someone can look at you with jealousy and cause you harm, but they can't look at you with good loving vibes and grant you positivity? Like I don't understand why it's so socially accepted to think one way versus the other.
So then people will flip and they'll say, oh, but you know, the power of dua, you can change anything, right? But here's the difference, is that the people who are asking Allah to, you know, making dua, asking Allah to cure someone, to bless someone, that's a person asking Allah, not a person just looking and manifesting
Yeah,
wealth,
exactly.
looking and manifesting
There's a
health.
difference. There's
Absolutely.
there's one that's saying that you've given that this person has the power to do these things magically. They have these like superpowers, versus them begging Allah and asking of Allah, which is what He tells us to do. The whole purpose of being a Muslim is to submit to God and to ask of Him, and asking of His power to give to these people. And that's the thing, is people don't realize the fine line of like how shirky all of this logic, I'm using air quotes, is they don't realize that the biggest sin in Islam is attributing power or partners to someone other than God. And what people are doing when they're believing in Nazr is literally putting power into the hands of somebody else other than God.
Absolutely.
It's shirk.
Absolutely.
It's straight up shirk. And people don't realize it. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that people, for one, they're uneducated and they don't know the varying views and opinions. They think that what their sheikh told them, that's definite, and there is no difference of opinion. At the end of the day, look, we are responsible for our own journey. That Allah is not going to judge you based upon the things that I said or did, right? So we're here. We're not issuing fatwa. We're not giving you this religious verdict. We're merely sharing what some of the scholars, you know, have said, and speaking of, because Allah tells us in the Quran, ponder, think, reflect, understand. You use your brain, right? So if I'm going to use my brain, and isn't it funny that people who believe in black magic, that it's an actual manifestation, of things, jinn possession, it only affects people who believe in it.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Isn't that
The
strange?
people that are wandering, the millions and billions of people that are on earth that don't believe in it, it doesn't afflict them.
Yeah.
It only afflicts the people that believe in it. That's so funny.
Isn't that ironic?
That is
It's
so
almost like
ironic.
you've trained your subconscious mind to be able to accept such information. And as we know, one of the principles of successful people or cult leaders is that repetitious understanding that then sinks into your subconscious mind. Repetition, repetition.
Yeah.
I am this, I am
And they're
this.
ingrained. And the thing is you're in Pakistani culture, because I'm speaking from experience, it's literally ingrained in us since I was really little. My mom always used to say, oh, you'll get Nazr if you do this. Oh, don't do that. Don't post that because you'll get Nazr. And I remember at that time, obviously I believed it because I was young. I didn't know any better. I didn't know about the other opinion, and I didn't think logically. I just was told basically to believe in it, right? And so looking back, I'm like, how did I go my whole life living in so much fear of people?
Yeah.
Living in so much fear of what quote unquote people could do to me.
So let's
versus
talk about
versus
that.
Allah and those tests that come from Allah.
Let's talk about that because we're getting down in time already. But so you have some experience with the woo-woo,
Lots of woo-woo.
Well, not just that. You have, I remember we were talking about this, where you have the story of this sheikh who came and was giving you some treatment for something.
Oh, yeah,
and how ridiculously nonsensical it was.
Yeah. So basically, there was what do you want to call him? Sheikh?
Molvi, not a sheikh.
I don't know. Some dude from Toronto came all
What
the
we
way
call
to
them
BC.
is charlatans. That's what these people are. They're charlatans.
Totally.
Who profit and off the suffering of people.
Yes.
Same thing with these people that have ruqya honey and all this garbage
Oh,
out
yeah.
there. They're going to give you honey that they recited al-Fatiha on, and then
And
this honey is
magically-
going to fix you from the
magically
jinn
it'll
possession.
cure your cancer.
Well,
It'll cure your mental illness.
Why
and
don't
yeah.
I get my 5-year-old or my 7-year-old daughter to recite Fatiha? If there's cure in it, and we don't deny that these verses of the Quran exist to help us and protect us, but when you're saying that I can recite Fatiha on a jar of honey, charge you $75 for it, and it's going to cure your jinn possession,
Yeah.
this is completely just
Absurd.
nonsensical.
Yeah, so let's talk about this guy. So he's this old guy. He's got this massive beard down to his hips, super calm, collected guy. And he comes to the mosque, and he actually came, I think he was fundraising for something. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so my dad had spoken to him and told him, about my mom. My mom suffered from migraines her entire life. Again, they say it was from Nazr because she had beautiful long hair. Okay, straight up. Her cousin actually, in her sleep when she was younger, when she was a teenager, cut her hair. My mom had hair down past her, pretty much to her knees, and her cousin cut her hair in the middle of the night because they said that's what was causing her migraines, because she had Nazr, because her hair was too beautiful. Anyways, bizarre. So and then I suffered from stomach problems. So my dad brought over this guy. This guy tells us, bring me your PJs from last night. We're like,
Red flag.
what? So he's like, yeah, as long as you've sweat through them, you've slept in them, bring them to me. So we're like, okay. So we gave him our PJs, and he took his hand and he started measuring it, from the left to right. And then he's like, oh, definitely there's been Nazr here. And I was like, what is he? And then he touched my head. Where does that even come from? He touched my head. He put the palm of his hand on top of my head and started reciting some stuff. And then he took saffron water and started writing on a piece of paper and said, put this piece of paper in a jar of water and drink from that every single day for 40 days. And I remember taking one sip of that water, and it was disgusting because, of course, the paper had disintegrated and I was eating paper. Oh my God, I can't even tell you. And at that time, I was like, why am I doing this? This is so weird and bizarre and shitky. And I just, after a few days, I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't know why, what this is all about, but I'm not, this doesn't feel right to me. And even my mom eventually was like, yeah, this is kind of weird. But it's people do this every day, Will. Every single day. And they believe that
It's a business.
it is.
It is a business.
It is.
And especially in the UK, if you look at the statistics, it's millions and millions of pounds are changing hands to have these, ruqiyya guys cure your jinn possession. Firstly, if you think you're suffering from a jinn possession, you need to seek psychiatric help. Because
Yes.
that 9 times out of 10, that's the problem. And a real
schizophrenia,
scholar, I'll use Imam Madhar as an example, that when people come and tell him these things, the first thing he does is say, you need to seek psychiatric help.
Yes.
Because that's most likely what is afflicting you.
Yes.
So it's so funny that people will say, oh, but, like tahweez is haram, right? Most people would agree.
Explain what that is.
Like an amulet, basically, that you think where you put this little, Quran manuscript in a little necklace, and that will protect you.
Yeah.
People do this all the time, especially Indian subcontinent. Not to attack the desis, but it is very prevalent in places like this.
Yeah.
That you put your faith in that thing to protect you. This is shirk, right? Yes, the Sahaba, there are many narrations where the Sahaba had such things, but it was a reminder. They didn't have any power. They didn't ascribe any power to these things. It is when we start putting power into that, and they say it's haram. So it's haram to believe that this little thing is going to protect me, but it's somehow logical to think that someone on the other side of the planet can look at me and I'm going to get sick. Again, it contradicts reason. And again, isn't it much more beautiful to think that Islam is what it is? That Allah is going to test you with loss of health, loss of wealth, everything, all of it is a test from Allah.
To see how patient you are, to see how you turn to Him.
So are you
things.
being patient by searching out all of these different, that's why I'm sick, because I posted that video the other day and my kids were in it and that's why we all got sick. So is that patience, or is it saying, I'm sick, Alhamdulillah, everything is from Allah. I'm going to endure this patiently.
Exactly.
And my reward
Where's
will
the
be
reward?
with Allah.
That's the thing, is where's the reward in thinking that people are doing this to you and you're not turning to Allah, and you know what I mean? Whereas if you fall sick, you turn to Allah, you make dua for a cure from Allah alone and nobody else, and that's it. Where's the
Exactly.
reward? That's where the reward is.
There's no ascribing cure to an amulet that is going to help you.
Yeah. It's
So-
the same thing as idol worshipping. We're going
It
right
is.
back
It is.
to what pre-Islam was.
You're thinking a necklace is going to protect
Exactly. You're thinking, and then if one day you took it off because you had to take a shower, and then oh my God, all of a sudden you got the flu, and now you're like, oh, it's because I took my necklace off.
Yeah.
And so
this-
now I know that there's power in
This
that.
is why there are narrations of pictures not being allowed to be on your wall, not allowed to draw pictures, not allowed to make sculptures. That's why these narrations exist. They don't exist to say blanketly kids cannot draw pictures, you cannot have pictures, because there's a difference of opinion
It's
in that
because
matter.
people fall into idol
It
worship.
is to protect those people who were very susceptible at the time of reverting back to idol worship. It was to protect them, to say, no, we're going to draw the line right here.
Yeah.
Do not even do it because you've worshipped idols your whole life.
Yeah, because
We
you're going to
don't
look
want
at
you
that
to go
picture
back.
and you're going to believe that it has somehow powers, because that's what they did. It's
Absolutely.
literally what they did. So I'm gonna throw it back to you and be the devil's advocate, aka the people that are going to be listening to this and are like, okay, well, what about the kul verses that Allah has given us in the Quran? They believe that they were given to us to protect us from these types, from Nazr, basically, from these types of things. So what do you say about that?
Okay, well, I would say that, again, this is not a fatwa. Be clear on this, people. But what Allah has told you to do and what we don't do, we have no problem opening up books of hadith and issuing rulings. The Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, which I think is a travesty to Islam. I will preface this by saying that hadith are a misguidance for people, for Muslims, except for the fuqaha.
Except for the educated scholars that spend their whole life understanding it.
And this quote is from Sufyan ibn Uyayna, who was a Shaykh al-Islam according to al-Dhahabi, giant scholar, one of the teachers of Imam al-Shafi'i, one of the teachers of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. May Allah be pleased with all of them. So a giant in the field of hadith. And he said hadith are misguidance for regular people, except for those trained scholars. So please don't open. There's a hadith that says, please just stop.
Yeah.
So we'll start there. And then we'll say, look, you have a responsibility. Connect yourself with the Quran.
That's the
stop
number
worrying
one.
about supplementary information and focus on the Quran. Ponder over its verses and its meanings. Because again, what one scholar says this means, another scholar says something different. But you have the responsibility to read, ponder, and reflect. So in like, for example, Surah An-Nas, it says, O Prophet, say, O Prophet, I seek refuge in the Lord of the daybreak, from the evil of whatever He has created, and from the evil of the night when it grows dark, and from the evil of those blowing onto knots. They insert here, which isn't part of the verse, witches casting spells by blowing on knots. But that's not actually in the verse. If you read this, the English, it's very deceiving, to be frank, but I'll address that in a second. And then the next verse, and from the evil of an envier when they envy. So we say, oh, but it says, it's referring to black magic in this. So that's exactly, we just take it at face value. But you have to apply the same principle before and after. If the verses before and after require a certain understanding, for example, and from the evil of the night when it grows dark. Darkness is not evil, right? But what is evil about the night? It's about the evil things that are associated with nighttime, because we all know what happens at night. Crime goes up. There's shootings
100%.
and stabbings and robbings, and all of these things happen at night. So when you look at it, and again, this is the best explanation I've ever heard of these verses, is that it's in this particular verse, it's asking you for protection from Allah, from the actions that are associated with the darkness of night. So then we'll skip that one verse and go to the next one. And from the evil of an envier when they envy. Well, envy is an emotion. Envy in and of itself can do nothing. It's just how you feel. Unless there is a physical manifestation of that jealousy, to where you see something, a person that you want to be with, so you just try to destroy somebody's marriage. Now that evil has manifested, that jealousy has
into
manifested.
a physical thing. It's not the laser eye vision that everyone is assuming what Nazr is. It's someone physically going and breaking someone's leg.
Exactly.
Like that's a real envy. That's somebody acting on with something physical.
Exactly. The figure skaters, Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding, right? One was so jealous of the other one, she hired a hitman to break the other one's leg before the competition.
Crazy.
That is the physical
That's straight up
manifestation
evil.
that you make dua for Allah to protect you. So now you say, okay, well, and from the evil of those blowing onto knots. You say, okay, well, that clearly means black magic. It's straightforward. Well, the verse before and the verse after, they require some type of understanding. So if you use that same principle, it makes a whole lot more sense. That the people who are, with the witch's brew, stirring up some magic spells.
The ones that believe that has some power.
For sure. Those are the same people who would attempt to poison you, that would attempt to kill you.
Yeah.
These are the people of the utmost extreme, that they're going to go through all of that, and they have so much hatred and animosity towards you directly, that you're asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be protected from those people that are the worst of the worst.
Just the people that are evil and continue to do things physically that are evil.
Absolutely. So, and again, if you
Not
do
that they have that power of
if-
magic supervision.
Exactly. If you were to flip that and you would say, okay, but then we'll use that same literal understanding, and then we'll easily be able to understand the verse before and after. Then you're making dua that Allah protect you from night, because night is evil. Again, it makes no sense whatsoever. Or the same thing, protect me from an emotion that someone has. Again, it makes no sense. So if you're going to use the same methodology, you need to use it for all three in order to make them make sense. So again, that's not my view. That is just an interesting retrospect that I've listened to over the years. And again, to me, it makes the most clear sense. People may differ. Again, we're not here to try to dissuade you. We're here to try to educate about a difference of opinion that may exist, that we happen to follow.
Yeah, so recite those verses. Recite the
Absolutely.
three qul. I recite them with my girls every night before bed, and I do it to protect my family from the physical harms of this world.
Absolutely.
Whether that's,
Getting robbed at night.
exactly.
Whether that's someone being so jealous they want to kidnap your child.
Yeah, exactly.
Or-
the physical things in this world that are possible and that happen every single day.
Exactly.
It's not. I'm not reciting those verses with the intention of people not looking at me on social media and wishing cancer upon me or something like that.
Again,
you know
because
what I mean?
if that's your understanding, then
Then
me
you've
you've
fallen
you've
into
lost
shirk.
the plot.
Yeah, you've fallen into shirk. Totally.
So turn back to Allah, Understand everything, good, bad, or indifferent, comes from Allah.
Yes.
Endure the trials with patience, and your reward will be there.
Exactly.
But once you start stepping outside and saying that this thing happened to me, now we're becoming obsessive compulsive. And this is not why Islam came. Islam didn't come to make you OCD about these things. It's very straightforward. It's very transparent. It's very easy to understand, easy to follow. If you don't let your, psychological, viewpoints try to supersede what Allah has revealed to you.
So next time you fall on some ice, next time you get a cold, next time anything of that nature happens, just say, thank you, Allah, for this test, and ask Him for His grace and His mercy, and that's it. Like, move on. Don't attribute it to what you posted on social media, or don't attribute it to what this person is thinking on the other side of the world.
This mentality will create mental illness.
It will. It causes anxiety.
Absolutely.
It causes depression.
Absolutely.
It causes all of these things that are so unnecessary. Just take it at face value and realize that these things happen in life because it happens to people that don't believe in Nazr as well.
Exactly. Like Allah says, all people will be tested.
Yes.
So you're not special.
No.
And that's the funny part, right? Like, oh, okay, so we're tested with these type of things. But, famous people, what is the difference between them and us? The ones that are on social media, nothing. We're all tested. We all have problems. It's not just the people, and if those people would be affected the worst because they're out there on social media.
Because they have millions of people that follow them,
and
exactly.
Instead, what happens? Anxiety, depression, these things that are issues within the human body that can be treated. So, like, if you have a problem, seek professional guidance. Not from people who are wanting to take advantage of you. From professional people who are experts in their field, who help diagnose mental illness.
A doctor, a psychologist.
Exactly, a psychiatrist. People who are there to help you. And when you do that, and you free yourself of this dogmatism, life is beautiful. And Islam is beautiful. Islam is not beautiful if you make it this dark, demonic thing that, everybody is out to get you. You should just lock yourself up in a room. Because there are those people that do that, right?
100%.
And guess what happens?
100%.
They still get sick. They still get divorced. They still have financial problems. They still have all of those things that the people on social media have. So, again, guys, at some point in time, we have to use logic and reasoning.
And remember that culture does not equal religion. Don't get the two confused, because people are taking things from our religion and making it into this weird cultural thing.
And then they're adopting their culturalisms,
exactly.
And saying that this is definitely, from the religion. And again, so we're not stating that no other opinion exists, because they absolutely do.
And we acknowledge that.
Absolutely. And it's not. But I find and I feel that when we accept that particular viewpoint, that people can look at me and I'm going to get sick and whatever, it's creating mental illness. It's creating mental anxiety and depression and these things within you that is completely unnecessary and prevented by understanding that only Allah is in charge. Only Allah can do whatever harm befalls me, whatever good befalls me. Everything, my life, my death,
meant to be.
Everything is for Allah, and everything is from Allah. And it's simple, it's easy, and you will definitely, if you free yourself of this dogmatism, you will find that life is much more beautiful than you've been led to believe.
Exactly. So there you go, you guys. Now you guys understand where we stand when it comes to Nazr, aka Evil Eye. Definitely let us know what you guys think about this podcast and what your opinions are. Head over to our YouTube channel and find this podcast if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and leave us a comment and let us know, how did you grow up? Do you believe in it? What do you believe in? What's your opinion after listening to everything that we've said? I'm very curious.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So take care, inshallah, and we will see you next week.
Bye,
Assalamu
guys.
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.